Footballer saying what club wants footballer to say, shocker.
And we got to the Premier League doing that.
I mean, even Amazon don't distribute that well.
If you sign Tovidi,
Tomato. He's the sort of Division 3 Fabrizio Romano, isn't he?
He ain't in Kansas anymore, Toto.
Who is going to excite Luton fans the most this season? It's the guy who excited Luton fans the most last season. There was super glue on the goal line, wasn't there? And it's just a completely different kettle of fish. We'll need to learn, because they're not going to be the only team that come down here and don't play any football. There's going to be quite a few of those. I genuinely thought the fellow was a nightclub bouncer. He looked like one. He played football like one.
What does a nightclub bouncer play football like?
Like the number 6 at Wimbledon. It wasn't pretty, but the Town opened up this season with a win for the first time in 4 seasons on Friday night when they beat AFC Wimbledon 1-0 in a dour game of football, I think it has to be said. Alongside me to look back on the night and ahead to what is to come, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, you all well and good now, mate?
Feeling good now, yeah, cheers.
Excellent stuff. We'll look back and look ahead right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. Once again this season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned before the intro, we're going to look back on Luton Town 1, AFC Wimbledon 0, which probably ain't going to take very long, is it, to be fair? And we'll look ahead at what is to come, the season as a whole, what we found out over the weekend, a little bit of transfer stuff and all of that over the next hour or so. And alongside me, I've got Jimbo as always. Thanks to everyone who got in touch with us regarding, well, firstly, where the podcast wasn't. After we promised you a season preview, Jimbo was a bit unwell, so we couldn't get that done. As I explained in the video that we did on Friday, which, again, thanks to everyone who's commented on that. We really, really appreciate it. But the good news is you're all well and good, Jimbo.
It is, yep. Back for season number 9.
Tell you what, though, if you're going to pick games of football that you can't go to, you did enough pick the right one on Friday night. Oh, my word. Do you remember Cardiff away last season when I was literally contemplating my life choices at one point? It wasn't that bad, right? I wasn't contemplating life choices on the opening night of the season. But I was wondering what I was doing for Friday night entertainment when there were many, many other options that could have filled the boots on the first day of August.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't too well in the week run up to it, but I wasn't actually at the game for a very different reason, because I fully expected we might be at least be in the Championship. And a year ago, I booked a little getaway for the weekend, thinking that would be the last weekend before the season starts. Imagine my horror when I was sat at the Hawthorns 5-1 down thinking, going to miss the start of the season, haven't I? So yeah, I had to catch it in other ways. Catch it is the loose term really, because it wasn't that exciting. But listen, it's a victory. And like you said at the start of the show, not had one of those for 4 seasons. The last 2 seasons have been battered 4-1. So, and you said in the instant match reaction that you did on Friday, work in progress. And I think that's probably where you've got to look at it at the moment, because we've had to sign 10 new players. Only 4 of them started. Still more to come. Signed 2 on the day. So this transfer window doesn't help. I don't think anyone likes it, apart from maybe Sky and whoever makes that fella's yellow ties. But it's going to go like that for a month, perhaps. But all you can do is get through this month. I think we've talked about it, at least privately, that you've just got to get through this really congested month until that window shuts. Hopefully better off, and try and scratch out some victories. And so they did that. But Yeah, I can fully understand if anyone's watching it going, oh, don't know about this, but hey, they're in the 3rd division. We ain't in Kansas anymore, Toto.
No, that we're not, that's for sure. Yeah, listen, I wasn't expecting the finished article. I mean, anyone who expects the finished article on the first day of the season, I mean, you want to peak sort of 10, 12 games in, but, you want to, particularly this season, Jimbo, you want to offer something that brings an air of positivity, an air of excitement, an air of rallying around and things like that. And speaking to fans outside the ground on Friday, I think that's what everyone wanted. We're going to get blasé about a lot of football matches this season because Luton should win a lot of football matches this season, right? That's not me being big-headed or anything like that. It's just the facts of the life that 15 months ago we were plying our trade with the best in the country. And now, we're playing against teams who, many of whom, or half of whom, were 3 divisions below that at the same time. So we're going to win an awful lot of games of football, or we should win an awful lot of games of football. We're going to expect to win an awful lot of games of football. It's about how we win them in a lot of ways. And okay, Friday night's just Friday night, and that's absolutely fine. It literally was win the game at all costs, and if you can get a performance on top, then happy days. But, from there, we will want to see a little bit more progression as we go along. But the good thing about it was, Matt didn't go in front of the cameras on Friday night and say, yeah, we were brilliant, fantastic, we're ready to win the league and all of that. He said, no, we are where we are. We got to win. We were lucky. Let's be honest, we were lucky. There was no way in this world we were winning that game until Matey decides to lift it over the goalkeeper in the back of the net. I don't even think we had a shot on target after the Rue Waters shot after 62 minutes or something like that. I mean, ideas had well and truly left the building. But he did say that we're going to progress and we're going to progress, and that's a good thing. So at least we know we're nowhere near the finished article. We've got that base level now, and let's go up from there.
Yeah, I think you've maybe got to put the evening into 2 different pots. Like, you got the job done. Lucky or not, luck's deserted us for 2 seasons. I mean, you look at the stats. We lost 47 games out of 82 over 2 seasons in the league, and that's why we are where we are. For one of the reasons as well. So you won a game, you got lucky. Okay, get on. Move on to the next one. All that cliched stuff. And then the second one is, we want to see more. And that's true. That it wasn't the performance that anybody was hoping for. Pre-season was pretty promising in terms of results. And again, that was not what we saw the previous season. So won them all, kept Premier League Spurs to 0 goals, which is pretty good. Didn't concede that many at all across the whole summer-friendly schedule. It doesn't really mean a lot, but it sets you up for something. For 15 hours, top of the league. Yeah, by virtue of a lucky goal. But, we're in a situation where you just got to try and get points. And I think you said to me, I'd take 30 turgid 1-0s if you're going to win. The end justified the means in that regard. You don't want that. Obviously, you pay your money to see exciting football, and the expectation, which is a word that's still floating around at the start of the season as it was last season, expectation from bookies, expectation from fans is that Luton are going to be really competitive in this season. And they still might be, but you'd be looking for more than what the outcome of that game was. The stats are still pretty good in Luton's favour. I mean, Wimbledon came to defend, but Luton had more of pretty much everything. Wimbledon had 2 shots, none on target. Keeley didn't have anything to do. Defence was fairly solid, and that's important. If you're going to rebuild a side, where do you start from? Defence, and then you build up to the top. And the work that we haven't seen yet, but we've seen people in shirts clapping around pitches and rumours galore of where the top end of the pitch may be, but obviously not there at the moment. So it's a strange one, isn't it? Because everybody wants to get excited by the first game of the season, but then when it's a bit of a damp squib, you're like, oh, yeah. But ultimately, won a game. So, yeah, I mean, you take that rather than losing and playing badly, wouldn't you? So, obviously. So, yeah, it's a strange one, but let's just try and grit our teeth through a month, I guess, and then see where we are at the end of that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, the overriding thing that you said there, we'll take another 30 of these because that's got us promoted, 93 points. You're going to get promoted with that. That is for sure. Obviously, we don't want to watch that. That's, and obviously Matt doesn't want to deliver that because he's come out quite a few times and said that he wants to play an entertaining, exciting brand of football, but that, and that was as far away from those descriptions as it could be. Team selection.
I think on that point, though, we know what Matt Bloomfield wants to do. We've seen it for 10 of the last 11 games in a Luton shirt, and what he did at Wickham. That we know what he wants to do. We know how he wants to play. He's changed the formation slightly. Probably, I know you don't want to talk about it too much, but it's not the formation that he probably wants to end up with. Probably looking a couple of transfer windows to get the players in to do that, maybe. So we know what he wants to do. It's just that you've had to get rid of so many players and bring so many players in. That doesn't lend itself to cohesion straight away, unless you're very lucky, I suppose. But what you can do is make it very difficult for the other team to score a goal, which they did, and then nick one. And we got to the Premier League doing that. So 1-0, you've got to be kind of happy with it, even if you didn't like how it was achieved.
Yeah, no, I am happy. Yeah, I am happy with it. It's just, you kind of hope that there was a statement win there, and we didn't really get that. But look, we got a win. That's the most important thing. Yeah, I thought the team selection was quite interesting. You mentioned earlier 4 debuts, or 4 of the new players started for the first time. Obviously, Nicky Wells, one of them. Josh Keeley in goal. Nigel Longwick, he played left wing back, didn't he? And George Savile was the other one. I'm not overly sure that that's the long-term future, Longwick at a left wing back. I'm assuming that's why Bramwell's been brought in, although Matt did say after the game that he's had no pre-season whatsoever, so he needs to have a pre-season. So I'm assuming the first time you're going to see him in a Luton shirt will be the Coventry Cup game. Wouldn't have thought you're going to see him in the shirt at Peterborough on Saturday, but it kind of just felt a little bit like last season. We got into the final third an awful lot, but didn't really do anything when we was in there. Nicky Wells was lively. There was one break in the first half where, from the Kenilworth end, it looked like the defender was lucky to stay on the pitch because it was one of those last men things, and the pace of the defenders all night, no one's getting back to Wells once he's gone clean through on goal, but the referee bottled it and gave a yellow card. Might have been right. I really haven't wasted my time looking back on this match too much. And then he had another one where he couldn't quite get a shot away in that half, but obviously he contributed to the main point of the night. But in terms of standout sort of performance, he would have been one, particularly in the first half. Did fade in the second half. The whole team faded in the second half. It got worse and worse as it went on until the goal came on. But I really liked Rue Waters down that right-hand side at right wing back. I mentioned it in the reaction that we did. I know 1 or 2 people messaged me on social media and said that they didn't think much of him. Yeah, he did lose the ball a few times, but he wasn't riding a solo plough in that regards. But he got forward as much as possible. He looked to do something with it. There's a few balls that he played around the channel that Wells could get onto and things like that, particularly in the first half. And he had that shot from, I don't know how far out he was, 30, 35 yards, which was going in the bottom corner until Bishop got down and saved it. I thought it was a positive, but of course he's gone off injured and we don't know the situation with him. And hopefully he's all right, because we're mightily short of left wing backs and we're equally short as right wing backs.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can see that there was some promise in there. I mean, you still got to remember he's a kid, isn't he? And he was basically frozen out for the second half of the season. Didn't really see him, maybe even longer, really. That being his first season in men's football, because he was an academy product, wasn't he, at Arsenal before that. So he looks like he's spent the time building his physique up, which is a good thing. But he did lose it a few times. But I think you're going to have to accept that with young kids, or maybe all players at this level. But certainly young kids, that there's going to be some mistakes. But try and look on where the positives are. And I think those things that you can see visibly that he's worked on to try and make himself available for the team when he wasn't before is a good thing. But yeah, I mean, injury again, we'll see on that one. We've got more than enough defenders. They're just not necessarily all in the right places at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, centre halves, we're absolutely to a penny to, aren't we? I mean, 3 played, McGuinness came on, Holmes wasn't in the squad, and there are others. Mengi's injured, and Dauphin can play there as well, and obviously we're not going to see him for a month or two now either. In front of the defence, though, it just felt disjointed, I think would be the word. Interestingly, throughout pre-season, generally he's played Saville and Baptiste as the midfield too. Didn't go down that route on Friday night, went Saville and Walsh, and didn't really work. Neither of them shone, neither of them really won their sort of individual battle. And then that kind of meant that we couldn't get Ali and Clark into the game. We're playing this kind of box 4, aren't we, behind the striker, 2-2. And then Wells as the lone striker. We couldn't really get Clark into dangerous areas. We certainly couldn't get Millie Ali into any dangerous areas at all. And when we did, there was nothing for him to pass to or cross to. Literally, Wells against 3 giants in the box. So we had to keep on coming back. And it's just, you kind of think, well, Yates will certainly improve that. Of course he will, because he's a little bit more of a physical threat than Wells, the different kind of strikers. But it's just interesting that he's gone all pre-season with Baptiste alongside Saville, and then when the crunch came, he went with Walsh.
Well, probably because of the end of the season and Walsh's performance that warrants that, and he's clearly wanted to stay and wanted to be a Luton player is a good thing as well. I don't think that has any bearing on perhaps the selection so much, but I'm just highlighting it. But I think he was off the boil, wasn't he? And that's not really been the case since he came back from his, double red cards in middle of the season when he came back and proved himself. Not really been the case. He's been one of the outstanding performers. Clark as well, but Clark had a slow start to last season. And yeah, when Baptiste came on, you could argue he probably should have scored. That his shot might have made it a bit more comfortable and stuff. But yeah, I think it's an element of kind of, I don't want to use the phrase embarrassment of riches because we're in League 3, but got loads of defenders to choose from to try and find the right partnerships. You've got loads of midfielders to choose from to try and find the right partnerships. And I don't think you're necessarily going to find them playing a second division Slovenian side or, with the greatest respect, Gillingham or Southend. So you're going to have to do that in season. And that's probably what we saw. So there'll be there's a lot of food for thought in the performance of the whole team and those little partnerships in those positions that he'll have plenty of time to work on, a week of it. But there's enough players there to come in and try different things, isn't there? So that is the useful aspect of it for me. It just didn't flow, it didn't work on the night, but then, well, Wimbledon, maybe we're not giving enough credit to Wimbledon who came to stifle so much, which I thought, I didn't think that they would do really. If we were able to do a pre-season preview, I would have thought that they'd come up flying. And yeah, they've lost players like Nerthor who, scored their goal here and there, but they're still quite a together side and they came up. And, if you think back to when we came from League 2 to League 1, we didn't spend a lot of time hanging around in League 1, did really well. So that's kind of the last view I had of this level, that I thought there'd be more at it. So maybe you got to give them some credit for stifling Luton a bit, but maybe you got to give Luton some credit for really owning all the rest of the stats, just not the clear-cut chances and goals. It's just a very odd kind of emotionless start to the season, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was no noise, no nothing. It was just, come on, when are we gonna go in front? And 4 minutes from the end was the answer. And when the goal did come, it was a lovely goal, to be fair. I mean, had the defender not headed it in and Woodrow controlled it and put it in, then it would have been an absolutely brilliant goal. I mean, the run from Woodrow in the first place is fantastic. He lays the ball off to Nahki Wells, doesn't he, on the halfway line, just inside our half. The vision from Wells is one thing. The ability to play the pass is another. And actually, Fanny makes another run as well, which just got the number 6's attention, which is why he was slightly out of position. Beautiful header, though, to be fair, inch perfect, right on the underside. They always look better when they go in off the underside of the crossbar. Off the underside of the crossbar. I mean, I genuinely thought the fellow was a nightclub bouncer. He looked like one. He played football like one. He just belted everything as far as he possibly could.
What does a nightclub bouncer play football like?
Like the number 6 at Wimbledon on Friday night. I genuinely thought he was going to leave Kenilworth Road, pop himself down to Esquires or whatever the local clubs are, and stand on the door and not let anyone in, much like he didn't let anything past him until that header went past him.
What we've learned from that is it's been a long time since you've been out in the clubs, really, isn't it?
You're damn right it is, mate. You're damn right. Well, maybe I'd have gone there a bit sooner had I not have been at football on Friday night. But it was a lovely ball from Wells. And, I thought Woodrow made a bit of a difference when he came on. In fact, to be fair, I thought all the stuff's made a bit of a difference when they come on. Obviously, McGuinness was on too late to make an impression, but the forward-thinking ones, so Woodrow, Baptiste, Nelson, Afane, they all made a bit more of an impression. I thought the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes we did perk up a little bit. You were quite right. As soon as we scored, Baptiste should have put the game to bed made it 2-0. We finally got Ali on the ball when he went to left wing back and he ran at his man. Crying out to do that, really, because they had no pace at all about this side.
He didn't do a great deal with the ball, really. And from what we've seen before, I still think he's going to be a major threat if we can keep hold of him. But yeah, play a bit iffy for this month.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then nobody comes in. But yeah, there's a lot of players that were kind of like that, just not up to the speed that people perhaps were expecting. But he'll get there. We've seen what he did at the end of the season. He was, one of the standout performers. If he didn't score the goals he did, they'd been buried long before the final game of the season. And it just didn't quite work out in that game for him. But yeah, it wasn't. There wasn't much sharpness at the sharp end, really.
No, there wasn't. Maybe that was because a week less, like you alluded to with your holiday bookings and things, a week less preparation for the start of the season.
They'd all expected to be
I bloody hope
having a weekend away before the season as well.
Well, I hope they expected to start next weekend, not this weekend. But, it is what it is. Ultimately, it's 3 points. You're right, we were top of the league for 12 hours. We're now 12th. I mean, how on earth does the division have 12 games in it and not one draw? What the hell's going on?
Well, it's a whole new world, isn't it? That's it's quite remarkable. But maybe that kind of separates out who's going to be where a lot earlier. And we kind of expect, that's that word again, expectation that Luton are going to be up there challenging. And if they're not in at least the top 6, I think there'll be questions asked by everybody, not us, not just us two. But I think that's the bare minimum, isn't it? But there's some teams in there that have spent a lot of money, teams in there that went close last season. So it'd be wrong to have the mentality of like thinking you're just going to walk this league. It's very difficult. I mean, but then again, we walked the league last time, didn't we? We were in this league, so it can be done. But it's a totally different scenario. We hadn't been relegated twice. We'd come up. We'd had a promotion challenge the season before that ended quite harshly, and come up, signed some good players, started off like a house on fire, and never really let up. And even though we had that 27 game unbeaten run, there were still teams close by. It wasn't confirmed till very late on, was it? That so it is a very competitive league. Rightly or wrongly, none of us want to be here, but we are here, so we're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, we are. Someone said to me, a judge that I sort of trust said to me, this division is 2 different things. 10 teams can get promoted from it and 14 can get relegated from it. And I guess maybe that's what we saw at the weekend.
I saw somebody on Instagram saying that Luton and Wimbledon would be relegated as sort of a pre-season thing. I was like, blimey. I mean, it hasn't gone particularly well, and I'm not going to I know put all my chips in that in that particular bet, but I think that there's enough good business that has been done this summer to suggest that that won't be the case. And I touched every bit of wood in this studio to make sure that doesn't happen and come back to bite me.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 relegation places in this league, not 14. So I think we're going to be fine. And yeah, that might be the famous last words, but I don't think it will be. Yeah, we won the game. Let's assess this again on Saturday against a team who I would imagine are going to come and have a go against us. I mean, it's certainly if they're a team that lives up to the gob of their chairman, then they're going to have a go at us, aren't they? Wimbledon were weird. You're right. I thought they'd come with a bit of momentum, have a go with nothing to lose. Friday night on TV, Luton are a big scout Premier League 15 months ago, and all this, that, and the other. And really and truly, they kind of froze under the floodlights, which was good for us because it just allowed that defence, which isn't our first choice defence. There's absolutely no way we play back 3 that doesn't have Mark McGuinness in it when he's fit, for example. Who knows where if and where Ted and Mengi fits in it when he's fit as well. But it was solid. One of the reasons why it was solid was the guy behind them, and I hate pointing this out, but he's at the halfway line sweeping the ball up. You know, that wasn't allowed last season. There was super glue on the goal line, wasn't there? And it's just a completely different kettle of fish when you've got that confident goalie behind you. And it's not me saying this. Tom Lockyer was on Radio 5 commentating on the Saturday games, and they were talking about a Barnet keeper who made 2 or 3 complete hash-ups. And he actually said, as a defender, it's a whole different game when you've got confidence in the goalkeeper behind you because you're happy to let strikers shoot from a certain angle knowing full well that your goalkeeper's going to save it. Whereas the flip side, you've got to get your body into positions where they shouldn't be and you're easily turned because you're not in the right position because you don't trust your goalkeeper. They've got complete faith in Keeley, and why wouldn't they? I mean, raced off his lines, as I say, to the halfway line for 1 tackle. A couple of other sorts of bits that last season the guys cleaned through on goal, but not this time around. And I just get the feeling that backline-wise, we're just going to be a lot more settled, whoever the personnel is.
Yeah, got ourselves a sweeper keeper, haven't we? I mean, when he signed, we said that is a hell of a signing, and you know
we downplayed it. You know, we did.
Well, yeah,
even though we were bigging it up, he is Luton's number 1 for as long as we can keep hold of him. He is a proper goalkeeper. I mean, against Spurs in particular, he done the trifecta, didn't he? He came out of his box and cleared a few things, came out for crosses, and his distribution, I mean, even Amazon don't distribute that well.
Yeah, it was very promising. And I think that's probably one of the positives of Friday night is that, well, you don't want to see your goalkeeper making too many saves anyway, because then things aren't going particularly well. But I don't think that there's going to be many occasions where they get that many shots at Keeley. And when they do, you fancy him to deal with it. Or if the ball goes through Luton, as it did do on occasion last season, then he'd be there to sweep it up. And it's a whole different proposition then. And I think that there was somebody I saw online saying that they reckon that he'll concede the least amount of goals this season. And if you do that, you're in the conversation for all the riches at the right end of the table, aren't you? So I hope that comes true. As I say, 2 shots for Wimbledon, 0 on target. And we're talking about him coming out and sweeping the ball clear just to clear any danger. It's it's a different world, and I'm loving it.
It's a world that I've been wanting to inhabit for a long time, and I'm mighty glad that we can do that. So that was pretty much the game. There wasn't a great deal to remember, but 3 points is 3 points, and if it's the 3 points that get us promoted at the end of the season, then we'll look back on it very, very fondly. Probably the highlight of Friday happened before the whistle on Friday. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? We knew we needed a left wing back or a left back, someone who can play the left side of defence. That was made perfectly clear with all the quotes once Alfie left last Monday and all the ins and outs and the fallouts of that and everything, which we don't need to go into now that the season started and we've won a game. But we signed someone, Cohen Bramall, who came up against us last season for Portsmouth, been in this division a lot with Rotherham. I think he was at Doncaster as well. Athletic, left-sided defender who's got a decent cross on him. As I said earlier on in the podcast, probably not going to see him until Coventry at the very least because he hasn't had any pre-season whatsoever. But they've gone out, they've replaced the man who's left. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and we've replaced him as a League One side. So you're not, Alfie Doubt was never going to play third division football. We all knew that. When he went, it wasn't a shock, and everybody comes to that. That's one of the fallouts of getting relegated. And we knew that from the minute, well, not even the minute the final whistle went. We knew that when we were 5-1 down with 30 minutes still to play at the Hawthorns. It was like the clear out was going to have to be drastic. And most of those players, you'd say, well, they'd have to clear them out anyway because they've been double relegated. And that's kind of what's happened for most of them. You can make a case for Clark, I thought, and one or two others, and some others that were just, his numbers were so good in the Premier League, Doughty, that is, that we were expecting him to go last season, weren't we? He could play Premier League. It's just that I would have thought he'd gone to a bigger club than Millwall, to be honest. I know that he's a fan, but are they going to get promoted? I don't know. I'm now not following the Championship. I've no idea what's going on in that division as much as I'd like to, but what's the point? So wish him well. It was great. The first 2 seasons he was here. Last season was very, very stop-start and not very successful for anybody. But when you replace him, you've got to replace him with players that are potentially available and players that are going to want to play in the third division. So and Cohen Bramwell comes with the hallmarks of what Matt Bloomfield will be looking for, which is pace and power. We've just got to see that in action, really, haven't we? And we're probably not going to see that for a little while because he's not had the build up. So you think maybe a couple of weeks at least, maybe a month before we see him. But they filled that position. I heard all 24 hours before that football match, we're only a left wing back and a striker away from a decent sign, a decent summer of business. I heard that so many times. I've read it so many times on social media, and I made people write about that. And then in one day, they go and sign to fill those places. Now, they didn't play on the night, but we've filled those spaces. And I would like to think that Jerry Yates. I mean, I saw him more when he was at Blackpool rather than when he was at the teams he's been at subsequently. Which I think this was this division, wasn't it? I'm not sure.
Blackpool in this division,
yes.
Yeah.
And he was a menace in that. You've just got to look at when we were in this position last time. We signed James Collins, and he was a bully to everybody in this division. And he scored loads of goals, and he never really got the credit he deserved, or at least a song. But he did by us, James Collins Appreciation Society. If Jerry Yates can be that sort of player, then I'm all for it. He's got the pace of Nicky Wells on the sides. We didn't see anything of Gideon Kadoa yet. He's got loads of pace. If Cohen Bramwell comes in with pace, you can see where it's going. It's just the work in progress is what you said it was. We haven't got all the players up to speed or on the pitch at the moment, but we will do. It's just going to be a very weird, fractured start.
It is, yep. Yeah, I'm only guessing that we're going to see Bramwell at Coventry. I mean, I don't know any ins and outs about his fitness status. It's a game that we don't have to win, that you can try someone out for the first time if indeed he's ready to play. I don't think any Luton fans really going to cry too much if we lose to Coventry. I mean, it's expected, isn't it? Anyway, they're in a division higher than us, but league is the focus for many this season, and so it should be. Getting out of this division at the first time of asking has to be a priority, because otherwise another clear out will have to happen from the players that are here, because we'll be back in the Championship next season. Your Baptistes and your Walshes of the world. If they've got another season in League One, they'll go and find a Championship team to join. So we need to be out of here ASAP. Yeah, I like the Yates signing. I really do. I know there's talks about all sorts of strikers and things like that, but you're right. I mean, everyone was, apprehensive a little bit when the Bramwell signing was announced, but you're not going to get the equivalent of Roberto Carlos of this generation in the third division, are you? I mean, this is a guy who's played hundreds of games in this division. You know, he knows the wood from the trees in it, and much like when you're in the conference, each division has its own style of football, and someone who's acquainted with that style of football will be much more beneficial to us than someone who doesn't want to get stuck in. Hence why I said in pre-season I really liked us playing Gillingham and Southend, and I know the Southend game didn't work out because Ted Menge's got injured, but we're going to learn a hell of a lot more in terms of relations of how we play in League One in those kind of games than playing a Slovenian pub team and Spurs, because they play Spurs in particular play completely different style of football to anything that we're going to come up against this season. It's just a glamour tie to get a few people in the gates and a few quid in the coffers, and that's absolutely fine. So I don't mind the Bramwell signing, but I really do like the Yates signing. According to BBC Sport, reported to be a 7-figure fee. So those that are saying that we're not spending money, that's a minimum of £1 million to my untrained mathematical brain. And he scored goals at the higher level. Like you said, he scored loads of goals for Blackpool at this level. He's physical. He seems to have a bit of size about him as he was walking around the pitch the other day. He presses. He's a bit of a menace. Kind of strikes me as a Luton forward, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was quite happy with that. I heard a couple of rumours while I was off ill that might be the case, and I was happy with that.
The group chat was in operation.
It was
wasn't
alive, the group chat, but maybe it comes from. But there's a clamour for money to be spent. Well, then if you look at that report, particularly from BBC, that says about the 7-figure sum, that's money being spent in the third tier of English football. They're not going to spend Birmingham levels of money like on Jay Stansfield. That's not going to be the case, but that's good money on a good seasoned professional in this division who has played higher and was pretty good last season against Luton. So there's that aspect of it, and I think then the rumour mill of the summer when people are hearing, things about Nathan Lowe and the Ipswich guy Al Hamidi. And that sort of stuff. And I don't know if there was anything in the Low stuff. I'm led to believe there was obviously some interest in Al Hamidi because Bloomfield had worked with him before, but I think that was really ever going to come off. That would have been a super coup to get to that guy, to get that guy. And maybe those things play into it. I don't know. Put it in the comments. Let me know if that's what it is. But I think that I think he is a Luton striker. I think that he'll be a player that Luton come to love if we get the Yates that we've seen in nearly every club that he's been at, really. Some different goal scoring records at the various clubs, but that's fair enough. It was Derby last season, wasn't he? So they weren't pulling up any trees, especially when we saw them. So I think it is a good signing, and I was quite happy with it, and got reasonably excited, League 3 excited about it. And maybe that's an aspect of it as well. It's like you've come from the Premier League 15 months ago, and now we're here. But you've got to deal with that. That's where we are. If he's the man that gets the goals and shoots Luton back up into the Championship, then he can stay in the Championship because he's proved himself there. So it's a sort of a signing where you're thinking, well, he can do a job now, and then he can do a job if all goes to plan. Well, he can do a job then as well. So, I like it. Let's see him play. Let's see how they work it. We're going to need to create more chances than we did against AFC Wimbledon. But again, you start with that strong base of defence and then improve the rest of it. There's more to come in midfield. Fanner didn't start because he's been concussed for the last couple of weeks. And Nelson, Matt Bloomfield was talking up Nelson last time I was speaking to him about this could be a big season. I agree. So there's those things to come into it. Giddy Kandua, not seen him. We will. There's a lot more to come. If you're thinking this was just it, this is it. Oh my God. I can understand why you might lose your mind a bit, but there's loads more to come, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to bring my ladder connection out again, but, we're nowhere near the top of it. We're not. We're not even halfway up it, and that's fair enough. pre-season was truncated this season, wasn't it, by a week? Like you said, we usually start next weekend, and all manner of things, injuries, ins and outs, and everything else. An opposition that didn't really come to play much in the way of football against us, just stopping us from playing, which they did well. Their three in midfield certainly had our two well and truly covered. And their three centre-halves didn't really move from the edge of their box at all night, did they? So, we'll learn. We'll need to learn, because they're not going to be the only team that come down here and don't play any football. There's going to be quite a few of those. So that is the one thing that as we go through the season, we'll have to monitor, because we will need to be better against that style of football in particular. But if there are a few teams in this league that fancy coming down here and having a go, happy days, because I fancy us defensively now. Got a goalkeeper who'll back up that defence. And in front of the defence, don't really matter the combinations. There is more than enough. I mean, only Leeds and Burnley from March the 1st picked up more points than Luton in the Championship last season. That's something like 12 games. That's a quarter of the season. Only Leeds and Burnley. I'm pretty sure they're playing Premier League football in 2 weeks' time.
And we weren't playing amazingly all that time, but we were grinding stuff out and digging out results, which was important, really. There's loads of stats you can pick out of a Friday to give you some sort of to ease any concern, and they don't always tell the full story. But even if you just look at something simple as the amount of passes Luton played, obviously they're trying to play out a bit more from the back, but they played vastly more than Wimbledon, and of the ones that were accurate, even just the accurate ones were more than the amount of passes that Wimbledon made the whole game. So there's a thought process to it. They just need to get all the components clicking, and obviously we didn't see that, but I think there's loads more to come from it.
Yeah, and the games come thick and fast this month as well, don't they? I think it's 7 league games in August and a cup game as well. So by the end of August, we should be up to speed. That's for sure. Saturday was interesting as well, Jimbo, actually, because I was minding my own business. Well, I wasn't actually. I was utilising Sky's nice idea of showing all of the League One games, so I was watching a few of those. But then, once again, the group chat started going mental because some geezer was left out of Colchester's side. Samson Tavide, I have no idea what the surname is. Anyway, reputable journalist on Twitter, Pete O'Rourke, suggested he was left out of Colchester's side on Saturday because a fee has been agreed with Luton Town. Didn't say the fee or anything like that, but he's pretty, he's pretty bang on the money, isn't he? Particularly when it comes to our level. He's the sort of Division 3 Fabrizio Romano, isn't he? So there must be something in that. He was left out. Danny Cowley, the Colchester manager, confirmed it after the game that he was left out because the bid's been accepted by a League One club. So it all adds up. We might be having double strikers through the door in the not too distant future, because big lad, by the looks of him, can put himself about. Kind of the large to the little that we've already got with Nicky Wells.
Yeah, pace and power. It's the Matt Bloomfield thing again. I mean, we can look at his goals for Colchester, but I think that you're if you get him, if he's genuine, if that's a genuine connection and it gets announced soon, then you're paying for potential, I think. And what the potential I've seen, and maybe you can pick this out all the time with YouTube clips, but the amount of pace he's got, and he's sort of there's no fear attitude. I think that's a Luton signing. They can mould him. Don't forget that this is the way it has been. Bar a couple of season blip where we flirted with the big boys. You went and got Elijah Adebayo from Walsall. You turned him into a top Championship striker at the time, and hopefully he can be that again. And that's what Luton did. So also, Matt Bloomfield at Wycombe had 3 players that he could swap with another 3 players at the top end of the pitch. So if it ever went sort of stale as it did on Friday, change it up and let some more pace and power go at the opposition and see if they can change things. So maybe it won't be 1 or 2 windows, as I said earlier, for Matt Bloomfield to get his proper vision of the side in, if that's anything to go by, because and it would be good use of the final month of the window to add those attacking players. Defence is solid. Got enough players there. You might want a bit of backup maybe on the wide positions, maybe. And that's fine. You can understand why. We're not going to see Joe Johnson for a while, and that's unlucky for him. Had an operation, didn't he? So, like Zach Nelson, that would have been an opportunity for him. But midfield, pretty stacked there. Got to find the right combinations. And then it's just up front. That's the all change, isn't it? Because Elijah's not going to be here. Or he's not going to be playing for at least until the back end of the season, if at all. You know, depending on how his recovery's gone since I last inquired about him. And Morris has gone. So that's where it needs to be done.
Gone to a bigger club, Derby. So he said to people at Derby earlier on, bigger club, Derby. He wasn't saying that last season when we went to Derby and beat them, was he? But hey, footballer saying what club wants footballer to say, shocker, and things like that. You're right. The one thing I would say on this formation, I'll be interested to see the tweaks to it, because it didn't look right. You know, forget what it looked like in action. When you put the sort of circular dots on the old tactics board, it felt a bit lopsided. Would that be fair? And obviously part of that's because Bramwell's not fit and we're playing a right-footed guy at left wing back. And he did as best as he could, but guy hasn't got a left foot. It's plainly obvious every single time he got into an area where Alfie, for example, would have put the ball in at the first time of asking, he's got to check back onto his right side, by which time the Wimbledon right back, who I thought was really, really good, their number 2, didn't catch his name, but really good. By the time he's cut in, that guy's all over him. So the only option that he's got is to go back to Cal. And maybe down the line, Cal plays there whilst we're getting Bramwell up to speed, just for a little bit more balance, particularly if McGuinness is fit. McGuinness can slide in, just move Mads across one or whatever. But it's in the forward areas, isn't it? I mean, if we're going to have games like this where teams aren't attacking us, do we need 3 centre-halves anyway, if they're only occupying one striker who hasn't really got much service or much intent anyway? I didn't think we did need that on Friday, and I was kind of hoping that we'd take one off and bring an attacking player on, but we never really did. In that situation, you want as many attacking players on the pitch as you can, and we'd like Millie on the one side of a striker, wouldn't we? Because he was really good there last season. We probably don't have the right-sided guy whilst Izzy Jones is injured.
And we forget about that, don't we?
We do.
You know, it was going to be a month, maybe 2 months to come back, and
stress fracture of his back.
Sounds nasty, but he was good at the back end of last season as well. So you forget that it's still got players like him in reserve to come.
Yeah,
to come back.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I'll be interested to see how we line up on Saturday, and we'll do this in the preview podcast, of course. But now that he's got Yates there, it might be that he's not match fit and he doesn't play, but so maybe Saturday's the wrong time. But at some point this season, Yates and Wells are both going to be fit. And we're only playing one central striker at the minute, aren't we? With 2 kind of reserved in behind. I'd like to see those 2 up alongside either side, but can you put Clark there? I don't know. And this is what I'm saying about the tweaks and things. I'm kind of looking at it whilst we're waiting for Izzy Jones to come back as the right side of a striker would be Kadua. But again, we've only seen 20 minutes of him against Tottenham and a little bit more against Southend. We're still finding out all of these things. And I guess that's the interesting thing about the next few games, not just the fact that hopefully we'll win a few because there are some winnable games on the ledger, but we can find out more about these players that came in so late into pre-season that we're not really seeing too much of.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the exciting thing, that there's actually some bodies in there that you can change it around with. I suppose if you look at it with Yates, if he's going to play, and Wells, 2 experienced campaigners, you could then afford to have young either side, couldn't you? You've got already get Millie Ali, and maybe Kadua could go in there and play. There's a lot more options really than if you were just looking at the face of it of that game on Friday. A lot of options to come in that you haven't really got run the rule over really too much, but we know from where they've come from and that they've got Bloomfield connections, but particularly with Kadua anyway, that that he'll know how to utilise him. So that is quite useful, I think, and that gives already with those 4, even if you're just playing a 3, gives you some flexibility anyway. So that says to me that there's a lot more to come. You've just got to you do have to create and fashion more chances, obviously, but I'd like to see that how he manages those options, and then when you bring Jones in as well, if you sign Tovardi,
tomato.
Well, it's a work in progress, that name. We'll get it right if he comes in, and then all of a sudden it's just looking a lot better, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, just on him, our friend from Colchester, Matt will have had him at Colchester, wouldn't he? So whilst we're not sure of his sort of progression from YouTube clips, Matt will know all about what he's signing, and obviously he wants to go in again, so he must have liked what he had. So that's a good thing. What did you make of the rest of the division over the weekend? I mean, bookmakers at the start of the season had Luton as warm favourites, as you mentioned right at the start of the podcast, 7-2 favourites. Next biggest one after that, 7-1, so double the price of Luton, and that was Huddersfield, and that was a reaction to all the money that they've spent. I watched the Huddersfield game on Saturday. As I say, I double screened on Saturday and watched a couple of the games because Sky had them all on their whatever channel you call it, and I knew Huddersfield were going to be, one of the teams to watch, and Leyton Orient as well. Actually, funnily enough, they looked all right. Huddersfield, I wouldn't say they looked absolutely, fantastic, but 3-0 win against a side like Leyton Orient, albeit one that's been obliterated from the side that played in the playoff final. Notably, the goalkeeper was with us, centre forwards with Charlton and one or two others. They looked all right. Lots of people spoke about Stockport, best team left in the league last season in terms of the fact they finished third. I watched them. They were on Sunday, weren't they, against Bolton? Really didn't think much of them. In fact, they were exactly the same as us. Lots of hype, didn't really deliver, but ground out a win, and I suppose that's good for them. And then you got the 2 relegated sides with us, Cardiff and Plymouth. Plymouth stunk the gaff out against Barnsley. Don't think many people were too happy with that. Some weird goings on in that game as well, if you saw the highlights from wrestling and all this, that and the other. Cardiff played Peterborough. I watched that game because they were our next 2 opponents, or 2 of our next 3 opponents, sorry. Didn't think much to Cardiff either, I have to say. Worldy free kick. Don't want to be giving no free kicks away when they come down here. But I thought Peterborough were all right first half. Absolutely terrible at the back, though. Really like the look of some goals on Saturday from us, if that's how Peterborough are going to defend. But lots of teams kind of announced themselves as what they were expected to be, but no one said to me, you're definitely going to challenge for automatic promotion. And I'm not saying that we did either, but it was a bit of a weird weekend. But the ones that were fancied to win did win.
Yeah, Huddersfield probably arguably the most convincingly well done, isn't it? And regardless of the players that Orient have lost, they were still flying very high last season, and probably felt a bit hard done by not to go anywhere to progress.
Connolly hit the post, actually. Aaron Connolly, who we had here on loan from Brighton in whatever season it was, we had him on loan here from Brighton. It was either when we were in League One, I can't remember, but he hit the post at 0-0. If that goes in, who knows, that might have been a different game. Huddersfield hit the post shortly after, but yeah, they're all right. Joe Taylor on the bench for them. Alfie May started up front. Don't know if that's a long-term happiness thing.
Well, are there any Luton supporters complaining at the Huddersfield manager for not bringing him on? So I don't know. But they've bought well, haven't they? And same as Stockport have loaned well, actually, really. They got Nathan Lowe, didn't they, at the weekend, which is fairly useful. I just think that they always used to say about the Championship being a bonkers division that anyone could beat anyone, and I think that the money or the ambition and the money that has filtered down in the last couple of seasons to League One probably makes that the same proposition for League One, and we're not really going to know who's going to be doing what for a good couple of weeks, really, maybe even a couple of months. I don't think that's a bad thing, because then you're not going to get cut adrift or worry at any point. Hopefully, no worry. Enough of that. So yeah, we'll see on that one. I mean, Peterborough usually put together a side that's capable of playoffs, don't they? And they usually always find some gem from somewhere that they flog on for £6+ million, and you got to hand it to them really on that front that they are able to do that. So
they'll need to. Looked horrendous at the back.
Well, that could be a good thing for Luton. We'll address that in the preview podcast, but I think that there's going to the teams that they'll pick out, or the teams that probably the bookmakers will pick out, will be the teams that are the perceived big teams in the division, which is what we've seen, hasn't it? Luton is understandable because of where they've come from, the money they're supposedly expected to have.
Well, they do have, don't they? Parachute payment.
Well, they do, but we know where most of it's going, doesn't it? And that would probably account for a lot of people's concern about the summer, but it's always been the case that the long-term sustainability of the club is not as sexy as a star striker, but is what it is, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I spoke to a lot of people before the game on Friday. Keep calling it Saturday. Oh, messed the week right up, isn't it? Hence why we're doing this on a Monday. And I think most people were really happy with the transfer business. I mean, let's be fair, the last 2 summer transfer windows, the business was late when it arrived, and we were playing even more catch up than what we're playing this season. I think most people that I spoke to before the game at this point were comfortable that we were just a striker away from being a real top side in the division. Obviously, Jerry Yates hadn't been announced at that point. It had been teased on Twitter who it was, and I think it came with a caption of "It's good to be home" or something, and everyone thought we'd signed James Collins that I'd spoke to outside. I'm pretty sure we've not signed James Collins, but he wore 19, not 9 anyway. But so once the Yates signing happened, I think most people were pretty content that on the pitch everything's good. And listen, we'll cover off the pitch stuff as we go through the season. Of course we will. But I think most people are content that, we were promised that they were going to get back to doing things the Luton way. And on the pitch, in terms of the transfers, our business has been done early. Has it all been done early? No, but I've pointed out in the last podcast, until you shut the transfer window the day before the season starts, no team's going to get their business done. It's just how it is,
Well, and the Alfie situation was explained by Bloomfield. You can't really go looking for a player to replace the player if you don't know the player's going, and they've done that relatively quickly within 4 days of him going, getting Bramall in. So there is that, and there was always going to be that. I think there was an acceptance you're going to have to shift people on to get people in, and there was a lot of shifting that needed to be done and was going to happen.
Probably still is some shifting that needs to be done, isn't there? I mean, we haven't seen a picture of Marvellous Nakamba, let alone sighting of the guy in pre-season, so you would imagine something's happening or happened there to be announced. So Heath Chong's potentially been injured, but does he want to play in League One? That's another one. Obviously, there's still other players that were here from the Premier League, Ted Mengi being one. He's had all sorts of rumours about his future ever since he arrived, pretty much, hasn't he? So, there's still more to happen. And as players leave, there'll probably be more to come in, as we've mentioned with this Colchester guy. And over the next month, we'll keep up to date with it. Just before we finish, what are you expecting from this season? 3 questions. First of all, where would you expect Luton to finish? Who would you expect as an individual, an established individual, to shine in this Luton team under Matt Bloomfield? And which youngster are you really looking forward to seeing the progression of this season?
The youngster, we'll take that one first because that's an easy one. I agree with Bloomfield that it could be Zach Nelson's year. I think that if he's going to shine, this could be the one for him. So I'm really excited about that. And he did some useful stuff last season as well, but another year older, playing first team football will help. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of Zach, and I think they've got to find him a home in terms of position. But as we've talked about already, the attack is fairly fluid at the moment, and there's lots of tinkering that you can do there to see what works. But that will be a good one for me. Position-wise, Luton finishing, I don't think that you can take anything less than top 6. I know some people will be crying out that it has to be automatic. I'm kind of not going to lay all my cards on that, or put all my eggs in that basket again for fear of falling foul. That it's been it's been a disastrous last 2 seasons. And I think that if that stung you, that's understandable. And there's cautious optimism with the summer business. And then you play the first game and it didn't quite gel. But there's a lot of room for manoeuvre in terms of personnel and how you play and getting the right team. So that will come on. Work in progress is what you said. And I think that pretty much is as succinctly as you can sum it up as. So I'd say top 6. Anything less than that probably it is not going to be acceptable whatsoever. If you can go on an automatic promotion chase, more the better, because I just think that if you're going to get promoted, that's an ideal way to hit the championship with that in you. And ideally, if that happens, and we're talking too far ahead in advance, but when it happened the last time, we lost our 2 best players and then a manager and struggled, didn't we? So you've got to navigate that scenario, but cross that bridge when we come to it. And the other question was what?
The more established player, who do you think will shine this season? As in, who do you think will be a contender for player of the season?
If they can keep him, Makoso would be one for me for what he did in the end of the season was very impressive for me. There's a lot of them in defence that you're looking at, but maybe they won't be that tested. I'd like them not to be tested, really. That would be quite good. And attacking wise, again, if you keep him Miliali, what he did at the end of last season was frighten the life out of people, and he can do that again. Didn't have the game that he or we expected on Friday against Wimbledon, but I think that he is a little bit of something different, little sprinkling of stardust if he gets it right. So less Wimbledon and more 10 of the 11 final games of last season, and we've got a player there. We've got a player anyway. He's top quality.
Yeah, as he showed when he was in this division last season with Exeter, which earned him the move to us. Yeah. For what it's worth, I'll answer them as well. I thought around a month or so ago when we did not the last podcast, the podcast before it that kind of reflected on the end of last season and what to look forward to this season, I thought we would be in the top 3. Wouldn't go any higher than that because I wasn't sure we'd get our business done as early as what we have done. Having done that now, though, I'm pretty comfortable that we will be in the top 3 and probably should be in the top 2. I mean, I refuse to believe we can play much worse than we did on Friday night, and we won the game of football. So when we start hitting the strides that we expect us to hit, we should be winning lots of games of football, which in turn...
And also, you didn't ever look like losing it. That's one thing, isn't it? If you can't win it, don't lose it. And there was not even a faint glimmer of a chance that you're going to lose that game.
Not a prayer. Never ever was we going to lose. Young player, I'll reserve with Rue Waters because I don't know what his injury situation's like, but I was looking forward to seeing how he would come back. So I'll go with Lamine Fane. I'm absolutely convinced there is a serious footballer in him, and I hope to see lots more of him. I would like to see him in time being the other guy alongside Saville, whether that's double pivot or whether that's one sitting behind another one going forward, because I really do think there's a player in him. And yeah, I mean, you're right. Defenders and goalkeepers should not be player of the season this season. They shouldn't. That's not to say I don't think...
even had Keeley in there. But
I was going to say, that's not to say I don't think Keeley would be, but I mean, his save amount ratio shouldn't be anywhere near as what Kaminski's faced in the last 2 seasons, should it? I mean, he's obviously started without a shot to save, and he's going to get somewhere in the vicinity of 20 clean sheets if he got 16 last season. So he'd be in the mix. But yeah, I mean, who is going to excite Luton fans the most this season? It's the guy who excited Luton fans the most last season, Miliali, isn't it? You get him the ball, good things will happen. He'll either score or he'll set goals up like he did in pre-season. And, he's everything that you want as a fan, isn't he? You go at his man, he can go inside, he can go outside. He's got fantastic celebrations, scores from tight angles, scores great goals. I'm fully expecting him to be, assuming that we can get through to September the 1st with him still as a Luton player, and I hope we do, because there hasn't been too much in the way of rumours about him, has there? There have been rumours about lots of others, but we've seemed to have dodged the rumours of him. Then I think that he's the one to lead us into this top 3 finish that I fully expect us to get.
Yeah, I really hope so. He's got that little bit of something different. He's got an air of Kazenga Lawalawa about him.
He
but
gets the
with
ball
a
and
bit
you
more of a-
shuffle towards the edge of your seat, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And maybe sometimes he doesn't quite know what he's doing yet, but he is still very young, relatively raw. And so we'll see that. But I think he's got that air of magic that we don't often see. I raised the comparisons to Kazenga Lawalawa, but he came to us at the back end of his career and Millie's at the start. And so perhaps he's got a ceiling that can go maybe even higher than him. I mean, certainly Cal Naismith thinks so, doesn't he? I think he did an interview with and talked about Millie Ali, that he's got everything. And, you know, Cal's been there and done that in many different divisions and big clubs as well. So I take what he says seriously.
Yeah, I do too. But has he ever played with a crap footballer? Because everyone he speaks about is like the highest level of. He did it with Wales, didn't he? Did it with Millie Ali. Maybe there is a crap footballer and he just hasn't found him yet. He's not here anyway.
It's good captaining. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because he's keeping sweet the star men of potential goal scorers of the team to keep them around, because he knows the damage that they can do.
And you're happy with him as captain?
Nailed on that, wasn't it? No, it was an absolute no-brainer for him to be captain. I know there's been talk of Mark McGuinness, but I think that not after last season. Let him concentrate on being a defender.
I think he's the next captain, isn't he?
Probably, yeah.
Assuming he's still here.
Clark's still vice captain, isn't he?
I didn't see.
We haven't seen it run out, have we? Really?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
You would assume so. I would assume so, because he's still a popular player in the dressing room. So, but yeah, all day long for me. I mean, the fact that he was given the armband at one point last season when he was a lone player says it all, really, doesn't it?
Well, if it means he's going to get picked, then I'm all for him being the captain as well, because obviously the one game we needed him picked from, he wasn't. Pretty much it for that one, for that podcast. So we've covered the game, covered a bit of the transfer activity and what we expect from the season. Thanks to everyone who put their score predictions in the last podcast that we did. None of you got it right, so you needed the practice that we gave you. You did get the result right, obviously. I don't think too many people were expecting Luton.
We've all started
not
the season
to beat Wimbledon
fairly,
slowly. Yeah, room for improvement. We're all works in progress.
Absolutely,
is what I'm trying to say. We'll get the score prediction competition up and running for the Peterborough game, and what we'll do is we'll include the Coventry game to make up for missing out on the Wimbledon game. So we'll still get a 46 game thing done, so Claire can defend her title over 46 games over the course of this season. Thanks to everyone for getting in touch, particularly over the last week. Obviously, with Jimbo being slightly out of action, we weren't able to bring a preview to you, which we do apologise for, but hopefully we've made up for it with a slightly longer episode here. And of course, we'll be back as normal at the normal time for our preview of the Peterborough game at the weekend. Thanks also to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for continuing to host our studio for the time being, and to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for all of our intro music. Until next time, which will be a preview of our first away game in League One for some 6 years, from Jimbo and myself, we got the job done. Come on, you Atters.